I had this dream a few nights ago about my niece who is in her early 20s. My niece, we were at this family gathering, and she just walked up to me and she said, "Hey, Auntie," and she gave me a hug, and she told me about how she met this new guy, and she really likes him, and she's thinking about being in a relationship with him. And I was happy for her, but the advice that I gave her is that she really needs to take her time and get to know him before she gets serious about him. I think that's a mistake that a lot of us make at least once or twice in our lives, that when we're entering into relationships that we go too fast and we really don't take our time and get to know people and properly vet them before letting them into our hearts and giving them our full emotions and investing so much time and energy into those people. A problem that I see is that so many parents don't take the time to actually sit down and have that talk with their children about how to relate to the opposite sex. And what happens is that, when their children come of age, they end up learning about sex more through social media, the internet, and the media in general, through music, through what they see in movies, on television. And unless they come from a home where their parents, they were able to see a loving and healthy relationship between their parents, then they really don't know how to relate to the opposite sex. They really don't know how to love anyone in the opposite sex. And they don't know how to choose someone that is compatible with them. And I think that they also tend to rush into things. I know a woman who, she's in her 70s now, and she told me that getting married to her husband and having children with him is the biggest mistake of her life, and that she regrets it to this day, because she didn't take the time to properly get to know him, and she was looking more at what a lot of us look at when we're young. Is she was paying more attention to the superficial, to how he looked, to materialism, what he was driving. And she got married when she was a teenager, and she had, I think, 3 children with this guy. And later on, she found out that the man was abusive and that he had a mental illness which ran in his family. Actually, she saw signs. She was warned by other people, by people in his family and also people in her family, that the guy is nuts and that she should break off the relationship before it gets too far. But she chose to ignore it because she went into it too fast, and she became emotionally attached to this guy. She admits that she did receive some signs that the man was mentally ill early on, but she chose to ignore them. She was warned by people in his family and also in her family not to marry the man, not to get too deeply involved with him, but she chose to ignore those signs. I remember one particular occasion that she told me she was at his relative's home, and one of his family members got up while they were watching TV and threw a brick through the TV, crying that the people on TV were trying to get to her to attack her. So that should have been a big sign right there that something wasn't right about those people, but she ignored that sign, and she got married to this man. He tried to kill her, and after she found out that he was physically and emotionally abusive, she left, and he tracked her down as she was boarding a bus to go back home to her family. He tracked her down and he tried to stab her, but some people, some guys that were waiting outside of the bus as she was boarding, grabbed him and allowed her to board the bus and get away safely. And she filed for divorce shortly after that. But she said that if she could take it all back, she would have never married this man. She would have never had children with him. And the story doesn't end there. Seeing that mental illness runs in his side of the family, three of her children ended up with mental illness. You know, two of them were addicted to drugs most of their life, and the other one suffers from alcoholism. One of her children passed away. He was in and out of jail and prison for the latter part of his life, and when he got out of prison, the last 5 or 6 years of his life was really difficult because he was homeless and he really never had any real financial stability, and he ended up dying. And I can imagine for any parent that, you know, it would be a big nightmare, a tragedy and a nightmare for a parent to lose their child, you know, or to have to bury their child. So I guess just the point behind this video is that, you know, make sure you get to know people, research them thoroughly before you get too deep into a relationship with the person. You know, do a background check if you have to. What I do when I meet a guy, I ask for his identification, because people will lie. Some people give you aliases. You know, I've had people to lie to me about their age. You know, this one guy, he wasn't a citizen of the United States, so he gave me his green card, but he had lied to me about his age. And once I decide to enter into a long-term relationship with a man, I ask him for his social security number. You know, that may seem extreme to some of you, but that's what I feel I have to do in order to protect myself. So, all right.